The good folks at Comics for Fun and Profit have been doing 2 episodes a week for quite some time now, and it's all thanks to, first of all, Jason, and second of all, our patrons who allow us to add the space on our server, broadcast more, store more, share more with you, the listeners. I'm envious of those of you who have unlimited storage and media server capabilities. We pay for ours here at the C4FAP. It ain't cheap. We thank you so much for those of you who go to patreon.com/comicsfunprofit and contribute at any level to say thanks, to say, I want to be a part of your Slack channel conversations. I want to get exclusives. I want to get early access. I want to get ad-free access. I want to get swag. I want to get some free stuff. Whatever your reasoning is, we appreciate it at any level because it does make a difference. So from the bottom of Kyle and I and Jason's heart, thank you for contributing.
Aloha, this is Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I will be interviewing writer Melissa Flores. She is here to promote her new image series, The Dead Lucky. It is part of the Radiant Black Massive Verse. Now, this also includes, and Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong at any time, it includes Rogue Sun, Infernal Girl Red, and I know that was a Kickstarter project, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's a graphic novel, and it's also coming out in single issues.
Yeah,
but...
next year. I think I saw that. Yeah. Also too, it's like also too, Radiant Red, Radiant Pink is also part of this massive verse. The Dead Lucky issue 1 and 2 are out in stores right now. Issue 3 comes out on October 3rd, and issue 4 comes out on November 2nd. Melissa, welcome to the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm really, really well. Thank you so much. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Now, listeners, I'm going to let Melissa talk about her history in the entertainment business, and she has, and I'll just kind of go over it. And I told Melissa before we started recording to have her explain her roles and so forth. But so Melissa was a creative executive and development executive um for like the Hasbro, or kind of like the Hasbro Power franchise. You could
yeah. So what I was the for Saban Brands first, who are the company that bought Power Rangers back from Disney back in 2010. I started as a coordinator and worked my way up to director, and I was the director of development and production, and then I became the director of Power Rangers development and production with them. And so all that really meant was I was a creative executive for the brand of Power Rangers. So if there was a story that had to be told, my team, the team that I was on, including my boss, Brian Constantini, and Paul Strickland, who was a coordinator and and then a manager, we would basically help steer the productions of whatever they were, whether it be television, feature films, video games, publishing like comic books, and live tours, all that fun stuff. We would help steer it and make sure that one, it was nothing broke canon, quote unquote, but also that it was the best kind of story could be told for the audience that it was told. And we're basically focused more on older audiences as opposed to like kid stuff. Beyond the television series. And then when Hasbro bought Saban brand or Power Rangers from Saban Brands, I moved over there. For 2 years, I was the director of Power Rangers development and production for them. And then I became the director of storytelling for them. And then till about 2020, I believe. Yeah.
Nice. Now, I'm also going to point out, and Melissa, you already saw this and I heard it from one of the interviews, that you also did, I guess, like a sort of a Power Rangers, you helped with the development of a Power Rangers YouTube series called the Meower Rangers. Is that
Oh
correct?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
That's
that didn't come from that came from marketing. Marketing put together that initiative,
okay.
but we absolutely, because it was a project with a story, we gave notes and helped develop it. But it's amazing. If you haven't seen Meower Rangers, I was actually talking to somebody about it today. I freaking love it. It's one of my favorite things we've ever done. It is so freaking funny. It is literally cats in Power Ranger costumes,
Mhm.
and we call them the Meow Rangers, and it's just little silly sketches. And the Goldar is, or I'm sorry, Zordon is a goldfish,
Oh my God.
and Rita is an Akita, and Goldar is a golden retriever, and it is amazing. It is so much fun, and literally, I love that we're able to do that kind of really fun stuff.
I saw a little bit of it. I have to say, it was cute. It was very cute. It really was.
Yeah, they actually did. Yeah, so they did initial 5 issues, and then or 5 episodes. Sorry, I'm in comics land now. And then they did, I think another 5 more with a different company, but they were still freaking hilarious. I loved it. So much fun.
And then also too, I think I hear your little dog also giving a seal of approval. I hear them barking in the background.
Sorry about that. One of my friends, I'm dog sitting one of my friends' dogs named Chewy, and I have a dog, and he's actually she's very quiet, but Chewy is a loud boy.
No,
And so you'll hear some barking every once in a while because he really likes to bark. Chewy, come here.
no, actually, but like I said, man, Chewy gave his stamp of approval to the Meower Rangers. That's what he's doing. He's the cheerleader.
Absolutely.
All right, and also too. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You also were involved with the 2017 Power Rangers movie. Is that correct?
I was, yeah. I was one of the executives that helped develop the Power Rangers movie. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I, and before we started the interview, I told Melissa I loved the 2017 Power Rangers movie, and I'm going to say what I really loved about the movie was, I thought Elizabeth Banks was perfect as Rita Repulsive. I mean, she took the role seriously, and at the same time, it looked like she was having fun with it.
Yeah.
I
It was
yeah,
great.
yeah,
She really just like got into the role. It was so funny. We were on set, and we were told like she's very method.
yes.
And
Oh my
so like we didn't meet her. We met everybody else, but we
yes.
didn't meet Elizabeth Banks because Elizabeth Banks was in her was method, and she's like, I'm not gonna meet anybody. I'm ready to repulsa. I'm evil. So,
Oh, that's nice.
so she
Oh
was
my,
lovely, but it was funny, like very professional, but she was very much like, we did not mess with Rita Repulsa. She was just doing the work.
oh my God, but that is so awesome to hear that she really got into the role.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, now, listeners, I'm going to let you know that I did get some of my information from a podcast called the Radiant Black Podcast that
Mm-hmm.
came out this year on June 27th. I also got also I listened to the YouTube podcast You Promised Me Comics, and that came out in August 11th of this year. And also from Melissa's website, she posted an article that she did an interview with. I'm going to try to pronounce the website's name is, I think, Gizmodo. Ah,
Yep.
I'm messing up.
Gizmodo. Yep.
Okay, and that article, the interview was written by Sabina Graves, and that was dated May 19th, 2022. So if you guys get a chance, please check out those other podcasts. Please track down that written interview. For more information about Melissa. Melissa, I'm just going to start off. Where can listeners follow you on social media?
I am both on Instagram and Twitter, Misty_Flores for both of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I'm going to ask, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Los Angeles. I was born in Chicago, but my family moved here when I was 2, so I don't really know anywhere else. I've always been here, which is good for me. I enjoy it here.
Yes.
Doing what I do, there wasn't much sense in moving. So
no, that's true. I'm sorry. I'm going to ask off the cuff question, and it has to relate to whether how is it still crazy hot over there?
no, thank God. There was a storm about 3 days ago, and it's cooled down. So now we're like about 85 degrees, which is manageable. It's not the 100 degrees that we were dealing with, especially with little dogs. I was happy that it cooled down. I just took them for a walk, and they didn't want to die on me, which is good.
All right. And then so Melissa, since you've worked on the Power Rangers and, for the franchise for 10 years, what was your first exposure to the Power Rangers?
I was a little too old for Power Rangers, but I mean, I wasn't living under a rock. I knew what the Power Rangers were, and I was really into, I think, like Saved by the Bell and those kind of shows at that
Yes.
time. Um, but I knew what Power Rangers was, and I remember like watching an episode or two and thinking it was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I didn't really know a lot about it, honestly, until I started working for Power Rangers, and then once I did, I kind of fell in love with the brand and what it meant. I kind of had a deep dive into the brand because there was 20 years of Power Rangers,
Yes.
and I had to learn it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And every year was a different team, basically, and there was different cast members. And so I had to really do a deep dive and watch all the episodes and just really get to know. And once I did, I started to really fall in love with what Power Rangers meant and the kind of show that it was, and how they really were just really great role models for kids. And I love robots any day. I'm a
Yes.
big fan. So I had a lot of fun with that. Zords are my favorite thing ever, which I guess you can say with Get Lucky because I have now. Now I have a bunch of robots in Dead Lucky. So
Yes, that's right. Yes. Off the cuff question. um, because I know because the American because as I talked before we did the interview, it's that for Power Rangers, it's been going on for 30 years now, I think. But but before it came to America, it was known in Japan as like the Super Sentai series.
and it's still going. Yeah.
Yes, that's amazing. I'm just asking, were you able to watch any of the older Japanese with English subtitle shows?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We worked really closely with Toei. So
Nice.
so I was able to watch all of that stuff, and it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed a couple of the Super Sentai seasons, actually more than some of the Power Ranger seasons, just because it's a different vibe in Japan.
Yes.
Obviously, like they have different standards for kids. They're catering to a little bit of a younger audience, but they're a little looser when it comes to violence and blood and all that fun stuff that
Yes.
we can't get away with when it comes to broadcasting standards. So oddly enough, it appeals to older fans from
Yeah.
here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was fun. Like I really loved Gokaiger. I loved Shinkenger. I loved like a bunch of those different seasons. They were fun to watch. I enjoyed watching them every week.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Um, let's see. Now I'm gonna ask you about comics. What was your first comic that you read?
I don't remember the first comic that I read, but how I fell into comic books, or how actually started to first love comic books, was Tom Taylor's run of Injustice. I've always been a big video game nerd. I've loved video games, and growing up, I didn't have access to really comic books. I grew up with two girls, and I have an immigrant dad who works he worked very, very hard. He's retired now, and my mom actually worked all day too, and there wasn't like an opportunity for me to really get comics. I used to fall in love with the comics in the newspapers. I
Yes.
used to read the comics, the funnies every Sunday. And when I got older, I still obviously got really into video games. I would buy the deluxe editions of a lot of things because I wanted the statues. But the deluxe edition of Injustice came not just with a statue, but with a comic book.
Mhm.
It was the first issue of Injustice.
Mhm.
And I read that and I'm like, wait, there's more to this story. I need to know what happens. And so I ended up finding the trades,
Mhm.
the hardcovers, I think, online. Now that I know there's an omnibus, I'm going to be really upset unless I go get it. But I ended up finding the trades and just like devouring those first 2 years.
Yes. Oh.
And
Mhm.
I just loved what he did with the characters, and I loved the humanizing. For me, a long time DC felt very foreign because it was about these big gods, and I felt like Tom Taylor, the way he handled these personalities, just made them so human,
Mhm.
so flawed, but in really interesting ways, and like that enduring human spirit that he always talks about in his books. It was
Oh,
just really fascinating for me. And then later I got to actually work with him, and that was really fun. So
that's nice.
yeah.
Oh, that is so nice. Now, you know, because I have to say, I just love how you fell in love with comics.
Mhm.
Because um you started off on the ground floor with a series, issue number one.
Yeah.
I just think that's so awesome. And then you just went forward with that. You didn't have to go backwards and try to find out, okay, wait, this is like part two of a 5-part story, and I gotta go dig. But I just think it's so awesome, you know.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
really enjoy that. I think it's actually hard. That's why I think it's been harder for me to get into a lot of Marvel and DC books
Mhm.
because I feel like I only have half the story at any given time.
Yes.
It's and I want to get into them. But sometimes it's really hard because I'm just like, okay, what have I missed? So I really enjoy these like alt world event story stuff because I
Yes.
feel like you don't need, you know, 100+ years or 50+ years of comic book history to
Mhm.
understand the story.
Yes.
I got the DC versus vampires, and so I'm really into like reading that right now.
Nice.
And I haven't read the
Oh,
DC, the
DC's.
undead version or
Yeah.
DC's. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't read that yet, but it's on my list. But I
Ah,
really like those because I feel like, okay, you know all these characters, you have fun
yes.
with them, but you don't need all the history to
Yeah.
understand this one significant moment that's on this page turn.
Yes. Yes. I understand. I really do. Okay. So now, how did you get started working in the entertainment industry?
I, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to be an engineer or something like that. I went to a
Mhm.
school called the California Academy of Math and Science.
Oh,
And
okay.
then that is how I very quickly discovered I have ADHD. And
Mhm.
undiagnosed ADHD makes it very, very hard to study and memorize the 20,000 little things.
Yes. Hmm.
But I had also discovered fan fiction at the time and like really I'd always been obsessed with television shows and books and
Hmm.
all of that. And I started writing terrible, terrible fan fiction. Please don't ever look it up. It's absolutely horrible. And I hope to God it's not still out there. But I used to write this like, I fell in love with writing that way. And I would read these amazing stories by these people that were spending hours and hours and hours of their own free time creating
Hmm.
these narratives from these characters that I loved so that I
Hmm.
didn't have to just worry about like watching them once a week. I could like live in their worlds for that much longer.
Yes.
And so when it came time to go to college, I kind of figured by that time that I was not going to be an engineer or a
Hmm.
doctor. And I was like, well, what do I do now? And
Hmm.
so I took the communication major and I
Hmm.
just started to fall in love with theater and cinema. And I was like, well, maybe I can be a writer. And I honestly had no way of knowing how to do it. I didn't have anybody that knew in the industry. I didn't have any
Hmm.
contacts. Um, I just knew that I wanted to write. And so the way to do that, if you have no contacts and you don't know how to get into the industry, is you start as an assistant in a production house
Hmm.
your way up. And so that's what I did. So I started working as an assistant for a company called Van S Films, which at the time did shows like biography,
Oh, yes.
and that sort of thing. And then eventually I ended up in research at FX Networks,
Hmm.
which is basically the people that track the ratings. I don't even know how they would do them now.
Hmm.
But I used to be we used to track the ratings. And then there came a time when I got a promotion. I got an offer to work at ABC as a manager in research.
Hmm.
And I knew at that point, if I take that job, then that would be the rest of my life. I would be in
Hmm.
research. And I was like, do I really want to do that? Or do I really want to try and take a shot and be working creative TV?
Hmm.
There wasn't a position open as an assistant to the manager and director in current, which is basically the people that, so there's development and current. And so development they are developing the shows
Hmm.
that are going to be on TV, and
Yes.
current are the shows that are already on TV.
Hmm.
And so there was an opening in current as an assistant. So I ended up turning down the manager position
Hmm.
and taking an assistant job. My
Hmm.
mom thought I was crazy, and I completely understand why.
Hmm.
And I worked there for 3 years, and it was a difficult job. And I kind of realized that I just was not going, it wasn't exactly what I wanted. I wanted to write. I didn't want to be a studio executive.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I wanted to be creative,
Yes.
and you don't get to be creative if you're the one giving the notes and just working for a network.
Hmm.
And so I ended up going to HBO uh and being an assistant there for about a year while I tried to figure out what I wanted to do. And I tried to get into writers' rooms as a writer's assistant, and I just was not having any luck. So by that time I just could not, I had student loans. I just could not afford to stay at a job that was going to pay me so little. And so what I ended up doing was just being like, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to take a regular assistant job with a regular company, work 9 to 5, get my life back, and then write in my off hours. And so I took a job with a company called Saban Brands, working for a finance analyst, finance director, and it was great. It was for Haim Saban's company, and he took very good care of his employees. And I got my life back, and I made like 3 times as much money. But I got bored very fast. So after about 3 years, I wanted to get back in the industry, because when you get out of the industry, it's very hard to get people to pay attention to you because you have nothing to offer them. And this business is all about who you know and what you can get. And so I talked to the general counsel at the time, who I had grown close to, and basically told her that I was getting bored and I was thinking about leaving and trying to get back into entertainment. And she's like, well, we actually may have a job for you. And they had just started a company called Saban Brands that just bought Power Rangers from Disney, and another brand called Paul Frank. And so I interviewed with the head of that department, Brian Casatini, and he hired me as a coordinator for development and production. And then I just worked my way up. So 10 years later, I was the director. And then about 2 years ago, that time ended for me, and that was fine. I was actually kind of relieved about it, because I feel like I'd done everything I wanted to do. I'd gotten very spoiled with wanting, like, I had done TV, I'd done film, I'd done comic books, I had done video games. I got to voice 2 characters in a video game. I got to do help with live tours. Like, I had done all this fun, cool stuff. And the idea of going back to a network and just being current or development executive, just like, I just did not want to do it. I mean, the people that do it are so good at that job, but I just wanted more. I wanted to create. And so that's when I took the opportunity to try and be a writer full time. And it took 2 years of grinding and using every connection I had, but now it's finally working out for me, which is great.
Yes. And before we start moving on to how you got into, started writing comics, I just think it's so amazing that, like, it's, you're living, you've grown up and lived in Los Angeles, you knew at a young age what you wanted to do. And you really, you quote unquote really paid your dues. And I think what was pretty cool is, like, you also say you love video games, and you got to do 2 voice works for a video game.
Yeah.
That's the off the cuff question. How exciting was that?
It was funny because I'm one of those, I have a weird poker kind of face. Like, I don't know if it's like just from my ADHD. I don't really absorb things when they happen. They don't. And so at the time, it was literally just, we needed we had 2 slots to fill, and I was there. And so I just filled them. So I don't think it really occurred to me until much, much later, being like, hey, I got to voice a Power Ranger. I got to be in this game. And if I play that game, it's me that I'm hearing. And that's when it kind of hit me, like, this is kind of cool. Like, for the rest of my life, I can tell my nieces, like, this is me, and like, they could hear me. And that's fun. But it didn't, at the time, it was about the work. It was just about getting fun, and making sure that we could fit their budget.
Yes. All right. Now, this is where I'm going to start slowly segueing into the Dead Lucky. So, and I love your story, and I'm going to ask you, how did you get started writing in comics?
How did I get started writing in comics? So I fell in love with comics a long time ago, but it wasn't until I started working with Boom that I really fell in love with the process, and it was really impressed by it. And it was very much a comic book boot camp for me, because we had to work on the entire process with this group. And one of the person that came to write the books for us was named Kyle Higgins, and great guy. And he, through the years of working together, he and I became very close as colleagues. And I just really loved the medium of comic books. I really just fell in love with the process, the art, the lines, the letters, how you tell a story in books and how they're so different depending on the writer. Like I don't think there's any other medium where you have so much freedom to tell such a weird story if that's what you want to tell. And to find an audience for. And because it doesn't exist like that in television, because everybody's beholden to profits and what fits a brand for a network. It's very hard to get any show on the air. And I'm not saying it's easy to get a comic book out either, but I think there's more, and people embrace the weird a little more in comic books, and diversity, and especially in independent comic books. And I ended up just really loving the process, and loving how to tell a story, like really falling in love with how to tell a story in them. So when I left, I kept working with Kyle, and I just kind of fell into it. He had asked me to do a couple things. I had a friend that asked me to do some books for their company, which actually didn't end up working out, which was fine. And Kyle had basically had found a lot of success with Radiant Black, and he was building out a universe. And I already done a couple backups for him, and I'd done a miniseries called The Unleashed, and that were backups as well in his book. And so he knew that I could do it, and so he asked me if I wanted to pitch him an idea for a comic. And so a couple lunches later, we had the concept for Dead Lucky. And so it became about creating a pitch and making the art and then pitching it to Image. And thankfully they saw the potential in it and they greenlit the book.
And this is the perfect segue for new readers. What is the Dead Lucky about?
The Dead Lucky is about it is set in the Massiverse, which is a superhero universe that takes place in the Image comic books. It features Radiant Black, Rogue Sun, Inferno Girl Red, Radiant Red, and Radiant Pink, which you already talked about a little bit. But this particular story takes place in San Francisco, and it is about a veteran who has been discharged from the Army after a traumatic incident that has left the majority of her platoon dead. And she has come home to San Francisco, where she grew up, and discovers that it has been privatized by a company called Morrow, who essentially vowed to fix San Francisco, who had been descending into a lot of chaos and crime and all this fun stuff. And but the way they're going about doing that is less democratic than people would like. It's a little more fascist. And so there's a gang called the Salvation Gang, which is trying to stop them, but it's very disorganized, and their methods of doing it aren't really any better because they're kind of putting the citizens in the middle of this fight. And BB, in addition to coming home with a lot of survivor's guilt and PTSD, also came home with these electrical superpowers that allows her to see and manipulate electrical currents. And energy spirits, which is energy that people leave behind when they pass. And she sees these energy spirits as manifestations and uses them to possess these robots that Morrow has brought in, and basically turn them into her new team. And so she has decided to fight back against Morrow. Because at the moment, that's the only thing she can think to do, because otherwise she has to deal with her trauma, and she doesn't want to do that. That's what the Dead Lucky is about.
And then, all right, you already touched upon, BB, your main character. I'm gonna ask, can you go a little bit more in depth about BB, because I also love a little bit of it's and what I'm trying to go for is because like her parents own correct me if I'm wrong, a Chinese Mexican restaurant,
They
right?
did.
Called the Chi Mex Q restaurant. So are you okay if you can you talk about BB, like her parents and so forth, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah. So it
her
was,
culture is important too.
yeah, it was important to me that BB be biracial,
Yes.
because I wanted that representation in the book.
Hmm.
I wanted a character who was Latino because I'm Latino and I want to speak to that. But the person who inspired this, which is my girlfriend Sandra,
Hmm.
who's a veteran, she's Chinese, and I have been with her for a very long time, and so I'm very familiar with the Chinese culture, and
Yes.
I feel like they are also not as
Hmm.
represented as they could be.
Yes.
And so I was important to me to make her biracial so that we can embrace both cultures, both the
Hmm.
Chinese and Mexican. And in doing that, of course, she has to have a Mexican parent and a Chinese parent. And
Yes.
so the perfect way to connect them, I always thought, is with food.
Hmm.
So I really wanted her family to have this fusion restaurant called the Chi Mexicu, which is
Hmm.
Chinese food, Mexican food, and American barbecue.
Yes.
And I've been having a lot of fun with Sandra and other people coming up with these recipes that they serve at this restaurant.
Hmm.
Like we mentioned the birria buns in issue two, or in
Yes.
issue one, issue two, we talked about duck tacos, and so
Yes.
we're really having a lot of fun coming up with these little recipes, but they're just little ways of showing that culture in a fun, different way, so that
Hmm.
we're not so much. I think when people try to put diversity in books is all about like this is all they are. All
Hmm.
they are is biracial, and everything about it is
Yeah.
like this is how my biracialness affects everything, or how my Mexicanness affects
Yes.
everything, and I do everything through a Mexican American person's lens. I don't feel that that's my experience personally.
Hmm.
I'm Latino, I'm Mexican American, I'm a child of an immigrant, I'm gay, I'm a lot of other things,
Hmm.
but the first and foremost, I'm me.
Yes.
And I consider myself an American, and
Yes.
I appreciate and love my culture, but that's not just that's one part of who I am.
Yes.
And so that's really how I wanted to approach that. And so for me, it's a celebration of her culture, but in little tiny ways that people can understand, just happens to be makes up a part of who she is. I mean, you'll also see a lucky cat, and you'll see the Day of the Dead altar,
Yes.
and like all these different things that we're trying to show like her culture is a part of her, and she really um embraces it. But at the same time, there's also like that's not what she's thinking about right now. Right now
Yeah.
she's thinking about her dead soldier friends, and but we still want it in the book so you can see this is where she comes from, this is the kind of stories she's leaving. And I really love the way that both the Mexican culture and the Chinese culture embrace death in a very uh, the way they respect the dead,
Hmm.
and their ancestors
Hmm.
in a
Yes.
way that you don't really see in American culture.
Hmm.
There's kind of a fear of death in
Yes.
American culture, and a kind of a taboo thing where you just don't talk about it. And,
Hmm.
you know, they go to heaven and that's it, they're gone,
Hmm.
versus the day of was it the Wing Ping festival for Chinese people, and the Day of the Dead festival for Mexican
Hmm.
people, where you honor your ancestors in a very
Yes.
interesting way. And considering so much of BB is stuck between the living and the dead, it just made a lot of sense.
Yes. That's yeah. Is you could see that in the first actually in both because I've already read issues one and two.
Yeah.
You know, um, and I'm gonna kind of go back and touch upon like you said, BB is she's she's she has two she has two cultures. And you know I texted you that not text I emailed you that one scene that I love where she's at her parents restaurant in issue one, and you
Hmm.
can see that the her Chinese side and her Mexican side, and it's not, but it's just those subtle. It was just subtle, it was nice,
Yeah.
you know so I thought that was really cool. The other thing I also have to say is, um, now I got to set up the scene because also too I kind of like what BB's mom said. Now in issue two, there was like a couple tourists that came in, and they're like going. One tourist goes, "Hey, do you guys have sushi burritos?" And
Yeah.
BB goes, "No, we're a
Yeah.
Mexican Chinese fusion restaurant." Oh. Okay, and then I think, like away from the tourists, BB tells her mom tourists suck, and then but I love what BB's mom's response was. And quote, she goes, but that's what I love about this job, changing people's preconceived notion about what they think food should be.
Yeah.
And it's not just food, it's just, you know, I just love that quote. It was great.
Yeah, so many people connect to people through food. Like
Hmm.
it's a universal language of friendship and companionship and commiseration. I mean, what's the American barbecue, a tailgate, a picnic? There's so many things that, when we go out to brunch or dinner, we connect through food.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's so much easier to just share a connection that way versus just trying to talk things out. And so I really enjoy that. And I think, both Chinese and Mexican food kind of get this like bad rap that it can't be high end and that
Hmm.
hard work isn't appreciated in it. And I really want to challenge that notion because you have, these beautiful complex dishes that come from both Chinese and Mexican cuisine, and to be able to celebrate them is always really a lot of fun.
Hmm. All right. Now, before I start continue, I have to joke about this, because if I remember, I can't remember if it was in issue 1 or issue 2, but because the name of the restaurant, there was a scene showing the outside of the restaurant there, and I'm joking on this part. There's a phone number under the restaurant's name.
Yes.
Now, is this Kyle Higgins' personal phone number?
No. What's funny is that initially it was actually a regular phone number because our artist is Italian, French. And I was like, we can't do that. If somebody's gonna call that number,
Yes.
you have to make it a 555 number. And he changed it. But poor Kyle, imagine if it was. I tried to name a hospital after him. He's like, no.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I, and let's see. I'm just gonna ask because there's also actually I just I'm gonna go back to like a couple things I just want to ask is um because BB's mech suit, can I say, is it mean like the mechanical suit?
Yeah, the
Oh,
ghost,
oh yeah. So now, and I may have missed it, but correct me if I'm wrong. So how did she come up with the name? I kind of sort of know where she came up with the name of Ghost, but was there a significant meaning for that? The name of
yeah,
Ghost?
I mean, I think you're gonna find out pretty quickly, so I'm not gonna spoil it too bad, I think. But Ghost is actually the name of one of her platoon members that died.
Okay.
And as you see in issue 2, um, she is using these spirits to
Yes.
possess these mechs. And so that mech
Mm-hmm.
is inhabited by Ghost. And
Oh,
so when she's talking to the mech that
mm-hmm.
who she truly sees as a partner, she is talking to Ghost, who is hurt. So you see him in flashbacks. There's a bar
Yes.
fight. You see Ghost.
Yes.
He meant a lot to her and probably is her very best friend in the world. And
Yeah.
so it made sense to me that he was the first one that got put in a mech
Okay.
for her to help. Yeah.
So I'm kind of jumping around a bit because it kind of leads me to, because what I loved about issue 2, or what I kind of got out more out of issue 2, is, we see BB's relationship with her mom, and that's more of a blood relationship. We
Hmm.
see your relationship with BB's ex, and please forgive me, I don't know, I can't remember what his name is. I'm sorry, what was
His name is Eddie.
Eddie? Okay, Eddie. And that's more like a relationship thing, um Ghost is more of a bond of, and I it sounds cliche, but it's more like a bond forged in battle, because
Yeah, it's a
he
bond
had.
in trauma. Absolutely. I mean, and it's inspired a lot by the experiences I hear. Hi, Chewy. Chewy, sorry. Chewy decided he had to
No,
get
that's
on
fine.
the desk. It's inspired very much by the close bonds you form with people when you go through traumatic events.
Yes.
And when you, especially one thing that I've come to discover in talking to other veterans and talking to Sandra is that these bonds that you make when you're in the service with these other platoon members, they are lifelong.
Hmm.
You can go years without talking and they will still be your brother or your
Hmm.
sister. And that is basically, and for her to lose every single one of them is a very traumatic thing.
Hmm.
And that is truly why she is trying to get through it the way she is and why she's not quite ready to let them go because to have them there with her after she's lost them, it'll take a very strong person to say no to that, right? To get rid of them.
The other thing I loved about the scene in issue 2 with her and Ghost is they're in a bar. What I love is not only is he defending her physically, because I remember she tells him, "Hey, no, you don't have to, you don't have to fight with me." He goes, "No, I got your back."
Yeah.
But he's also defending not only defending her physically, but he's also defending her honor because I know she mentioned, some creep just grabbed my ass.
Yeah.
And he's kind of going, no, we nobody does this, nobody does this to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, when you have those kind of even, I mean, assault does happen in the military,
Yes.
but there are going to be those people that love you and are going to have your back no matter what. And Ghost happens to be that person for her.
Mm-hmm.
He is essentially her other half. And we'll get to know more about them
Mm-hmm.
hopefully soon. But yeah, I mean, he said it, and Spaceman and Taking it the same way. They're all in all the
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
They're gonna back up their captain no matter what, even if she makes a stupid decision and punches a guy in a bar.
um, I'm going to ask about this part because there's now, and because so when she's kind of, when and clarify for me for this because I thought it was one thing, but because there's scenes in issue 1 and issue 2 where she's kind of quote unquote talking to herself.
Hmm.
Is she talking to you know Ghost and other members of her platoon, or
So she, we wanted, we wanted to throw the audience a little bit, the readers a little bit in issue 1 and make it look like she was talking to the reader. That was
yes.
absolutely something we really wanted to do. Um, truly, 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 when she's talking to the camera or the reader, she's talking to the ghosts.
Okay.
But I also want very much to continue that narrative device where she's looking at you while she's
Hmm.
talking to you, because I feel like that is a very good way to get into her head when you are
Yes.
uh a reader,
Mhm.
especially with somebody as closed off as Baby, who maybe has trouble making connections beyond the ones she's already made.
Mhm. And the thing is, um, what I love about it, it's not it's very subtle. It's not jarring. It didn't take me out of the story. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it gets me to see where where she's at, gets into her head type deal. And that's what I love about it. It's great because it kind of pulls me in. So
Oh,
it's really great.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh yes, yeah. And then before I continue on, do you wanna um let's see, do you want to give shout outs to the rest of your creative team?
Absolutely, of course, of course. The suit is designed by Federico Sabatini, who's amazing. He's an incredibly gifted artist. I think he's doing a lot of really cool stuff for Marvel right now.
Mm-hmm.
The artist on the book is French Carlo Magno, who is also amazing, as you can see in the books and the beautiful
Yes,
arts and flashes that
yes.
he does. Our colorist is Mattia Iacono, who is also another amazing Italian artist. He's an incredible colorist, and I think the books with his colors give a really distinctive and interesting flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It is edited and designed by Michael Busatil,
Mm-hmm.
who's incredibly crucial to this project and works very, very hard. He edits every single Massiverse book, and he does it with aplomb.
Mm-hmm.
And the creative consultant on the book is Kyle Higgins, who has helped me and reads every single one and challenges me every issue to make sure it can be the best it could actually be. And Sandra also consults as well. with anything Army related and food related. So
Mhm.
I'm very grateful for the team. Becca Carey is also an incredible letterer and really happy to have her on board.
Okay, so since you mentioned about Sandra, kind of consult with you with on food. There's a couple things I want to point out. Sushi burritos. Is
Yeah,
that a real thing? Because I've
that
never
is a
seen it.
real thing.
Oh
That is
my
a real thing. You probably don't have it
no,
in
you don't.
Hawaii, but because we're Californians and we love our burritos, that is actually a thing here. It's white rice. Instead of tortillas, it's white rice, and in the middle is a bunch of fish and avocado and cucumber and all that fun stuff.
When
Crab meat. Yeah,
I have to find
that
it.
is a real thing. Now, the birria baos, as far as I know, are not a real thing until
Okay.
now.
Okay.
But the sushi burrito is a real thing. Yeah.
Oh, nice. And then the recipes in issue 2. Who,
Yes, Sandra made that. Sandra created that.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, because I told her, everybody kept asking me about the birria baos and if they were a thing and where they could get them. And I'm like, well, I don't think you can, but we can show you how to make them. And Sandra happens to be a really good cook
Mhm.
and put the recipe together for us.
That's nice. Now, one thing I wanted to ask was, and how exciting was it for you and Sandra to see your name on the first issue you know, of this of the Dead Lucky? How excited were you guys?
I was incredibly excited. Again, it's one of those things where it doesn't really hit me until
Mhm.
later. And I don't think it really hit me until the books actually showed up and was signing my books.
Mhm.
And it was a very busy day that day as well. But then I went to Chicago and there were people talking to me about the book and how exciting it was for them to have an Asian superhero or a Latino superhero in the Massiverse.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And that made me really happy. And I think that's when it truly hit that I was creating something that people were reading.
Mhm.
And Sandra too. I mean, Sandra is very proud. We have all these amazing covers for issue 1, and so she wants to frame them all.
Oh,
So
that's
we have them all
nice.
together. Yeah.
That's nice. Um, Off the cuff question because I forgot to write it in here. Do you have an idea how many volumes you want? Do you want this as an ongoing, or do you want this maybe 3 or 4 volumes? Do you have an idea?
I mean, if I could get at least a year out of this story, I'd really love that. I feel like that'd be a really great arc for BB.
Hmm.
Um, if I only get 6, that's fine too. But I would love to get a year, because I feel like that's minimum what we need to really tell a good story for
Hmm.
her.
Yes.
Um, and then anything else I get beyond that is just gravy, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Now, Melissa, and listeners, I'm gonna kind of move on. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna ask this next question, and Melissa. So, in issue 2, one of
Mhm.
the last pages, and I really love that you guys have one page dedicated to the Veterans Crisis Hotline.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you, please feel free to talk about, you know.
Yeah, of course, of course. So that initially came out. I did a Comic-Con convention. I did the Comic-Con convention, San Diego Comic-Con, and I did a panel called Mental Health in Superheroes or something like that. It was run by the Dr. Drea, who runs the Arkham sessions with Brian Ward. And I was very honored to be a part of that panel. But when we were talking about mental health, after the panel, this woman came up to me and she was almost crying. And I was immediately very concerned. But she told me, what are you gonna do? Like you keep saying you want people to feel seen, you want people to feel seen. And that you're here to talk about this, but what are you trying to do to help them after you talk about it?
Mhm.
And I was like, oh God, I mean, I'm not a mental health professional. I don't know what I can do to help them, but
Yes, yes.
but I took that very seriously. And so after that discussion with Sandra, I was like, well, then like she has a point. Like, can we put something in the book
Yes.
that points people, veterans especially, to in the right direction if they are looking for help and just haven't found the resources to help them
Mm.
yet? And so that's what that page is for. I am not a professional. I can only do so much.
Yes.
But if I can send people to people who are, then I would be, if it even helps just one person, then that's all that matters to me.
Yes. No, because it's very important. And I've got the information. And listeners, I hope I have this down correctly. Now, the website is, and it's veteranscrisisline.net, or you could dial 988, then press 1, or you could text 838255. Now, access is free. It's confidential support. It's 24/7, 365 days a year. So if you know of any, veterans that need any type of help, you can do, you could, hopefully this little information helps you, maybe to help them, direct them where to go. So hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, I I don't know, Melissa. That was, like I said, it was really good. That was
Oh, good.
really nice. That last page, it really was. Just, yeah. I thought that was really nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Um. All right. Melissa, I'm gonna start slowly wrapping things up. Okay. Um. I'm gonna ask you, since you've done Power Rangers for 10 years, do you have any action figures?
Oh, I have so many.
Mhm.
I have so many action figures. I used to have a toy collecting problem when I was younger, and then I sold all my toys. I was like, okay, it was very 30-year-old virgin. I was like, it's time to grow up. It's time to sell all these.
Mhm.
And then I started working for a toy company.
Ah.
And it just all went to crap all over again. So I have a whole storage unit full of toys. I love toys.
Mhm.
And I don't think I'll ever get over that. Um, I'm a collector at heart. So yeah, I have plenty of toys. A lot of them are Power Ranger toys, a lot of Star Wars, Star Trek.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh
It
my God.
inspires me. I have some sort of a statue or collectible or toy
Mhm.
that's part of it. I love Legos. One of my favorite date things to do with Sandra is if we go to downtown Disney, because we have Disney passes, so we'll go every once in a while. If we go to downtown Disney, we'll stop at the Lego store on the way home, and we'll find one thing that we can build in like a night,
Oh, that's
and we'll just put it together. And that's our favorite thing to do.
um off the cuff question, because since you said Star Wars, Star Trek, if IDW or Marvel, well, let me start off. If IDW, because I think they're starting a new series in a couple months. If IDW calls you and go, hey, Melissa, do you want to do a short story for a Star Trek one shot? Do you have a story ready for them?
No, but you know what? I will. I'll make up one in 2 seconds. I would love to do that.
All right.
I mean, that's how it was with Power Rangers. Like, you want to write for Power Rangers? I'm like, yes, give me 10 minutes. I'll be right back.
All right. Now, if it's either Marvel or I can't remember if is it Dark Horse that also has the Star Wars license? I can't remember.
It's Marvel, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say let's say Tom Brevoort, he hears this interview, he hears you're excited for Star Wars. He calls you up and go, Melissa, do you have a Star Wars story you want to pitch?
I mean, I'm one of those people that you have to tell me what kind of story you want, and I'll give it to you. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
me, it's very pie as the sky. What I love about Star Wars is that it's so full of characters. Like,
Mhm.
I will tell a Queen Amidala story any freaking day. I'll tell a Leia story any freaking day. I freaking love, there are things I disagree with about the new films,
Oh, I understand.
but I love those characters like
Yeah.
Finn and Poe and Rey and Rose. Like, I will write about those characters any
Mhm.
day. Like, so for me, it's more of just like, are you looking for a Rose story? I got you. Are you, I will come up with it. Like, I will look for her, what inspires me about her, and I will tell her a story. I mean, one of the favorite Star Wars miniseries I read was about Chewbacca, and he doesn't say a word the entire time, So,
So
I mean,
you're
look at the
ready.
Mandalorian. Look at the Mandalorian and how that reinvigorated the Star Wars franchise, and it's about some random dude
Yes.
who meets a baby Yoda,
Mhm.
and like it just became a whole thing.
Yeah.
You know? It wasn't even about anybody in the actual prequel series. It was just a
Yes.
random guy. So
Yeah.
that's what I love about those universes. You can do that.
All right. And then I've got a couple more questions and I'll start closing up. May I ask, can you talk about, is it a production company that you helped co-founded?
Yeah, it's a
Alchemy Tales?
Amalgam Tales.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
Amalgam
Thank you.
Tales, which just means diverse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Amalgam Tales is a production and development company that I have co-founded with my friend and business partner Ayani Saima. And our goal is to create diverse content that features leads that you wouldn't normally see on regular television. So whether it be people of color, disabled people, queer people, any of those, just basically, as diverse, different people, we think it matters as much who's writing the stories and telling the stories behind the camera as it does who's in front of it. So our goal is to create that kind of content. And so that's basically what we're doing. Just taking a lot of content, developing it and trying to sell it and see where it goes.
Okay. All right. Favorite convention moment, either as a fan or a creator?
As a fan, I think WonderCon, or as an employee, I guess, and a fan, WonderCon in 2018 was really freaking cool. We did the 25th anniversary of Power Rangers that year, and then we also did a Hyperforce panel and signing, and we did not know how popular Hyperforce was, because it is one of those weird things where it's really hard to track because you're on Twitch and it's live, and then you have all these people that watch it on YouTube later, and it's just like we did not know. And so we kind of took a gamble and basically said, hey, we're gonna have a signing at WonderCon this year. If you want to go. And we're like, are people gonna show up? And the line was insane. And it was just so validating to see all those fans there excited about the Hyperforce cast members, and that made me really proud and happy. And then we also had a boom panel that year, and that year was the year we killed Tommy Oliver in issue 25 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And we actually, Boom handed out the book to people and had them read it in the room. And so we got to see the real-time reactions of people seeing Tommy dying in the book, being killed by his older an older evil version of himself from another dimension. And so that was really cool. So it was a really special, like, I usually, I have these really special Comic-Con moments, but usually they're San Diego Comic-Con moments. This one was great. Personally, I guess now in my new role, I really loved going to Chicago and just hanging out with the massive Govers guys. They're just so freaking smart, and they're so much fun, and they're just such good guys. But also being at Power Morphicon, I think, was really sweet for me this year. I was not going to go because I had nothing to do with Power Rangers anymore. And I was like, what is the point of me showing up here? Like, I'm just going to be that college kid that shows up at high, well, after he's already graduated and all high school. Like, what's this dude doing here? This is weird. But then I was writing the books, so it made sense for me to be there. And it's been 2 years since I had done anything Rangers, and so to see that people were seeking me out and remembering me and embracing me was just really healing for me, considering I had been gone for 2 years and I had no idea if I would ever return to the franchise. So that was really special too. Just the love that I felt at that convention was very cool. Sorry. I'm sorry. I did not mean to drop the pen. I'm sorry.
Nope. Did Chewie kind of react?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They don't like big bangs.
Oh, okay. Nope. But Melissa, thank you very much for sharing that real special moment, like when going back to Power Morphin Con, right? Hopefully, thank you very much for sharing that. Okay, 2 more questions. Have you and your family been to Hawaii? Or you and Samantha, have you guys been to Hawaii?
I have not been with Sandra. I want to go with Sandra because I think that'd be really cool. I did take my parents for about 4 or 5 days about 10 years ago,
Oh,
and that
no.
was really fun. But I think I'd love to go back
Mm-hmm.
because I fell in love with it, and I think we spent so much time doing touristy stuff that I think we didn't spend enough time just hanging out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, any closing words to our listeners?
Um, just if you enjoy comic books, please give Dead Lucky a read and support the book. FOC, final order cut off. FOCs are so important for independent books, and I really love to continue doing this
Mm-hmm.
series. So please pick up the book, put it on your pull list,
Mm-hmm.
and let us know if you like it.
All right.
You can also let us know if you hate it, but I'd like that less.
Yeah. Melissa, mahalo. Thank you, New Hawaiian. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview. Thank you very much.
Oh, no, thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you. And I also wish you all the success with the Dead Lucky series. Now, now for our listeners, if you are a new comic book reader or a lifelong comic book reader, please check out the Dead Lucky. Issue 1 and 2 are out in stores right now, and I'm kind of going off script right now. I've read both issues. It's very good. It's this the real true story is about BB, and um it's a very good that's where the meat of the story is. It's not about her well, I mean, part of it is also her jumping into the mech suit, but it's just how she's trying to deal with a lot of things right now, you
Yeah.
know and that's what I love. It's the human story. That's what I'm trying to say. It's BB's human story that's really good.